All right, welcome to our emotional detox using essential oils. We are recording this workshop so that some of you who might be watching the replay and some of you are on live. That's great. So I guess I wanted to start by reading this quote at the bottom of the page, which is that just like children, emotions heal when they're heard and they're validated. And that's so super important because I guess the thing that I wanted to tell you to start with is my own emotional journey. And when I was a child, my mum didn't have very good coping strategies. She actually suffered from postnatal depression. She had 3 children under 3, and her main way of disciplining us children was to actually just hit us with a wooden spoon. And I mean some serious discipline. So basically, I grew up in a household where people you didn't cry, because if you cried, you got hit again. So it was this whole repressed emotion stuff that was going on. And so my brother, my sister, myself, whenever we were so-called naughty, my mum would just smack us. And if we cried or, did anything, we'd get smacked again. And so I guess that's kind of how my emotional journey began. And as you can see, it's actually estimated that 100% of our belief system is established by the time we're 8 years old. So if you can imagine someone who grows up in a household like that, where there was, like my mum had the feather duster, the wooden spoon, the vacuum cleaner, whatever was close enough to hit us with, she would do that. And so we learned not to cry, because crying was a sign of, I guess, being weak and stuff like that. So we just learned to suppress our emotions and not deal with them. And so we never learned to process them. So it wasn't until I got into adulthood that I actually learned anything about how to deal with emotions. And even today, like I've been on coaching this morning and I talk about the fact that sometimes I just don't feel anything. And that comes from years and years of, not feeling your emotions and actually burying them and suppressing them. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The thing about burying and suppressing your emotions is that there's more and more evidence accumulating that our emotions actually have a huge impact on our physical health. So not just, do people feel depressed and anxious and have to deal with their emotions, every day, but though if they're not dealing with their emotions and they're swallowing them or they're repressing them, storing them away for later, then what happens is they can actually affect their physical health later on. And I work with a lot of women who've experienced menopause, and I see this a lot in women who've gone through menopause. What happens is they had something happen to them when they were younger. So maybe it was a relationship breakdown or the loss of a child, something on an emotional level, but they weren't able to deal with it. They weren't able to process and spend time grieving or whatever the emotion might have been. So because, they're a mum and they've just got to get on with life and, pick up their lives and deal with their other children or, look after their husband or whatever it is. So maybe they lost a parent, whatever that emotion is, and they didn't deal with it and they buried it away. And it actually comes back when they go through menopause. And it has huge impacts on their actual menopausal symptoms. So they might be healthy in all aspects except for their emotional health and maybe their stress levels. And they have the worst menopause symptoms, far worse than other women who may not have had that same trauma or that same issue that they had to deal with when they were younger. So I guess tonight's workshop is all about how to do an emotional detox, because we don't want, you or people that you love to actually have physical ailments or things happen to you because you didn't actually deal with the emotional trauma when it occurred or shortly after it occurred. So I'm going to hand over to Jeremy, and he's going to tell you who should do an emotional detox.
Alrighty, so who should do an emotional detox? Well, let me ask you a few questions. Do you ever feel like you're carrying around emotional baggage? Do you feel like you're repeating the same emotional patterns over and over? It's like Groundhog Day when you get upset. Are you often confused? Are you ever unable to make life choices? Do you have a lack of direction in your life? Do you fail to set and accomplish goals? Does that leave you disappointed and wondering what's going on? Are you unable to accept and give compliments? I know someone who struggles with
Not me.
that. Are you unable to give or receive love? Do you lack success in your life? Have you recurring illness with no apparent cause? So if you answered yes to any of these questions, then I want to say that you're in the right place. This workshop is for you. And we both believe that it's going to give you the tools to move forward in your life and to find more freedom, which is what all of us want. So here's our promise to you, okay? By the end of this workshop, you'll know how to do an emotional detox at home on yourself. And we need to say right up front that this doesn't replace what a trained counselor or a psychologist would do. And if you need additional help, then always speak to a doctor or to a trained professional. But what this workshop will do is give you another tool in your toolbox so that you can begin to regain some control over your emotions. And if you are seeing a counselor or you are seeing a psychologist, then this can also be a great addition to what's happening there. You'll begin to understand what role smell and essential oils in particular can play with emotions. You're going to learn about the connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit, and discover how our emotional health is linked to our physical health. And Kim's already talked a little bit about that, how those two things connect.
So this is us. Jeremy. Jeremy's relatively new to the oils, and especially the emotional aspect of the oils. And when I first started, I was the biggest skeptic. I could tell you everything about how to use the oils on a physical basis. So I knew which oils for muscles, which oils for the brain, which oils for, all the physical stuff. But when it came to anything hippie woo-woo, like emotions or spiritual uses of the oils, I was like, yeah, that's not for me. I'm not interested in that. And it wasn't actually until I had my own emotional release using the oils that I started to believe that there might be some truth in this stuff. And what happened for me was that I used to work for a government department, and I'd been down about 2.5 hours away from my home at a meeting, and I was due to fly out to America the next day. And a lady that I was working with, she said that she would drive home so that I could work on my laptop in the car and get some things finished. So all I remember was she said to me, like she said out aloud, don't hit, don't hit, don't hit. And I looked up, and here the car traveling in front of us on the Pacific Highway crossed to the wrong side of the road and had a head-on with a four-wheel drive towing a caravan actually. The caravan was pretty totaled. The car in front of us was pretty totaled. The four-wheel drive was lucky because it had a bull bar. The Chris that I was driving with, she got out and she went to the car, the four-wheel drive, the people in the four-wheel drive, and I went to the guy in the car that was in front of us, the Ford Falcon. Anyway, I had my phone under my ear, and I did what I always do, which is go into control mode. I was controlling the scene. I was telling people to get the debris off the road so that the ambulance could get through. I was talking to the ambulance. I was trying to lay the guy down in his seat, so that we could give him CPR. I wasn't even thinking, I was just doing. And that's what I do. I just went into that, that mode. And anyway, he lost his leg in the accident. And as a result of that, he bled out at the scene. I remember standing in a massive pool of blood as he was bleeding out. And, I don't know whether any of you have ever been there when someone's actually passed away, but the noises in his chest and everything that was going on was so horrific. I remember the smell of the blood. I remember how sticky I felt. Just looking down, and I couldn't believe how much blood there was. I'd never seen anything I'd done first aid for years, but I'd never actually had to use it in such a extreme way. And we didn't even have any gloves in our work cars, which so I was just literally using my hands to try and stop this bleeding, and there was just no hope. And that man passed away. And the police asked me to give a statement. They actually wanted me to go into the police station the next day and give a statement. And I said, look, I'm flying out to America. I can't do that. Can I do it now? And so I gave them the statement. And then I literally drove home, packed my bags, and left to go to Brisbane to fly out to the USA. And I kind of, in my own brain, sort of went, right, that's done now. I've given the statement to the police. I'm going to a Young Living convention in the US, and now I need to move into that mode and think in terms of that. So it was kind of like whole compartmentalizing what had happened. And I didn't, even though my boss at the time said to me, do you want to talk to EAPS, which is like a phone counselling service for government department? I said, no, I don't need that. It's okay. It's okay. Anyway, I went to America for a week and I didn't think about it. I didn't even tell people about it because I didn't want to bring people down. I just wanted to have a good time while I was over there. Anyway, a week went by, and at the end of the conference, we went to try and find some hot springs, and we got a bit lost in the car, and we were with another car, and the other car did a U-turn in front of us because we got a bit lost. And as a result of that, we did a U-turn following them. And because, when in America you drive on the other side of the road, and the driver of my car just didn't look the right way. And I'm on that side of the car, and I see this massive big four-wheel drive coming towards us, and I swear it missed us by centimeters. And like it didn't hit us or anything, but it was that shock. And what happened for me was all those emotions that I had actually not dealt with as a result of just seeing a man die in my arms, basically, the week before, came back. And I can feel myself getting teary at this part now, because it's still there. It's these emotions for me. I swallowed them. I stored them away somewhere, and I didn't deal with them. And what happened was my body went into shock. It was kind of like, here was another car accident. And it was a huge reminder for my brain and for my body that I hadn't dealt with that. And anyway, we stopped on the side of the road, and I got out, and I was shaking and I was crying, and I was basically hysterical. I've never ever been like that before, and I'd never known myself to be like that. I'd never experienced anything like that. Anyway, I was with some other oilers, and they were pouring Valor and peace and calming and stress away, and they didn't know what had happened because, remember, I didn't tell anyone what had happened. And anyway, it was this amazing emotional outpouring that I experienced right there on the side of the road in America with all these beautiful oils, peace and calming, Valor, so they're some of my favorite oils, stress away. They didn't know what was wrong with me. And I'm gradually trying to be able to speak and tell them about the experience that had happened to me. Now, in a way, I feel truly blessed that that actually happened to me, because it meant that I had to deal with those emotions then and there. And even when I got home to America, I actually went and had EAPS counselling to further talk about what had happened, because what it showed me was that these emotions are still in our body. We just store them away somewhere. And often we store them away in a part of the body that actually has the same frequency as the emotion itself. So things like grief we store in the lungs, and we store anger in the liver, things like that. And so if I hadn't have had that emotional release while I was over there in the US, I could have stored that emotion and all of those issues away for years. And, imagine what that would do to my health, because remember I said that emotional health is hugely linked to our physical health. And that could have manifested in all kinds of different ways for me, in pain or different diseases, things like that. And so, instead, I was able to use that experience, and with the help of the oils, to actually release a lot of those emotions. And I started to finally believe that there was something to this woo-woo stuff about oils being able to be used to release emotions. So what role, Jeremy, does our sense of smell actually have with emotions?
Okay, well, this is stuff that I learned. I should give you a quick little background on me. I came to the oils through Kim. So I met Kim actually online, which is exciting. And I had no idea really about essential oils. As far as the woo-woo stuff went, my background is kind of spiritual. So I worked for a church for, 20 years. So I had no problem thinking that there was more in life than just what we can see and experience. But as far as essential oils went, I had no idea. I thought they were just nice smelling stuff that women like to put in an oil burner, and it would make the house smell nice. So it's been a real education for me. And I guess like Kim, I was quite cynical about how the essential oils could be used for emotions. But my own experience has really shown over the last few years just how powerful they are. But one of the things that I hadn't realized is just the power of our sense of smell and how that connects up with our emotions. So, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but what we smell can have a huge influence over our whole person. So our body, our mind, and our spirit. And even if you think about just a perfume and the effect that that can have on us, the sense of smell is about 10,000 times more acute than our other senses, and which we never kind of think about. And we're very sensitive to smells. So once an odor or a scent is registered with our brain, the next time we smell it, we recognize it even faster. And one of the things which I realized is that the reason why our sense of smell is so powerful is essentially that it connects directly into our brain. So scent is perceived by olfactory receptor cells, which are in our nose. And when an odor stimulates a receptor, the cell sends an electrical impulse to the olfactory bulb, which is where odors are kind of interpreted as different smells. So the olfactory bulb is part of our limbic system. And if you know anything about our brain, the limbic system is the oldest kind of prehistoric part of our brain, which is interesting because it's also the emotional center of the brain. And so our sense of smell is connected to our amygdala and our hippocampus, and they're structures in our brain that influence our behavior, our mood, and our memory. So those things are really closely connected with our sense of smell. So how does that work in practice? Well, okay, think about this. Various aromas can help evoke particular memories, especially those which have emotional overtones for us. A study conducted by Stockholm University revealed that smells have the tendency to take someone further back in time than verbal or visual memory cues. And if you think of people struggling with Alzheimer's, then scent can be a really powerful way of connecting with them. The FBI actually uses scents in helping people to remember what's happened in situations. And I guess I think for myself, when I think of my memories, one powerful memory that I have is about my papa, so my grandfather, who I really didn't know. I've got such limited memories of interacting with him. But one thing that sticks in my mind is whenever I smell pipe smoke, it takes me back to my papa. And that's because there was one night when I was only small, I think, and my nana and papa had come to stay. They were with my parents in church, which we live next door to the church. And I remember waking up and walking into the spare room where my grandparents were staying. And I looked out at the window at the church next door at the lights, and I was in this darkened room. And I started to get a bit cold. And so I turned around and I grabbed my papa's
dressing gown.
Dressing gown, yeah, sorry. Yeah, his dressing gown. And I remember wrapping it around myself, and what could I smell? The smell of pipe smoke. And ever since then, it's been that connection. And it's a really positive connection for someone that I love but didn't get to know that well. So Kim, when you think of your grandmother, there's a particular smell?
Yeah, so for me, it's the 4711 perfume, because when I was young, my grandma gave us little bottles of 4711 perfume, and it was like so special, and we had our own little dabber and we kept it in the fridge. And so whenever I smelt that, it reminded me of my grandma. And now even when I smell neroli, which is one of the main scents in 4711 perfume, that also reminds me of my grandma.
So let's do a little exercise together, just where you are. I want you to close your eyes and then just think back to a memory that you have which is connected to a particular scent. So you might think about Kim and her grandmother with 4711. You might think about me and my papa, but what's a memory in your mind that's connected with a scent? It might be the smell of cut grass, it might be flowers, could be anything. Just spend a moment and connect with a memory which is associated with a scent.
And you can type it in the chat if you want.
Yeah, we'd love to know what that is for you. And hopefully that takes you back to something special, or something significant for you. We'll just give you a moment to respond to that. Now, the scents that we're going to be talking about tonight all come from a particular collection of essential oils, don't they, Kim?
Yeah, and this is called the feelings kit. So I like to call the feelings kit the emotional detox in a box. So it's kind of like your whole emotional detox kit. Like you go often to the health food shop and you buy like a liver detox kit, or you might get some other kind of detox kit. Whereas this is your emotional detox kit right here in these 6 bottles of oil. So Gary Young, the founder of Young Living, actually created the feelings kit as the first step to helping you release negative emotions, and erase memories of experiences that have had a negative impact on your life. So as I said, there's 6 oil blends, so they're actually all blends of single oils, and they provide you with the foundation for balancing energy, for forgiveness, for balancing negative emotions, as well as providing that emotional and spiritual well-being. So to do an emotional detox, now you can use the feelings kit however you want, but this is the way that Gary taught me. I did well, he actually spoke at a convention that I was at a few years ago, and he talked about using the feelings kit, and he suggested using it for 30 days. Okay, so doing this ritual that we're going to talk through for 30 days. Now, you're worth it. Like, that's the biggest thing that I can say to you tonight, is that you are worth spending a few minutes to start each day, or maybe you do it before you go to bed. It's up to you. It doesn't have to be done at a particular time, but take a few minutes, up to half an hour. I know when Kim Ellis teaches this class, she talks about doing it for 30 minutes to an hour. I'm a busy mum and I don't have 30 minutes, but I did this when my marriage ended and I separated, and I used the feelings kit. And I know that my partner, my ex-husband's mother, actually gave him a set of the feelings kit as well, so that he could do it as well. So it really is a powerful kit right there in that box. So you'll definitely feel fantastic. I'm just going to have a look at the chat. So Megan said fresh bread after school reminded her of childhood. Fiona said bleach. Yep. I know people who tell me that they don't think their kitchen or their bathroom is clean unless it smells like bleach. And Cheryl has said tweed perfume. So there you go. There's some memories from childhood. So it does have a huge impact on your life. So you think that you can remember back, and really clearly you can remember those smells and that emotion. All right, the guidelines. So if you do this for 30 days, these are sort of the most important things to remember when doing an emotional detox using the feelings kit oils. So have a quiet and relaxing location. So that's why I suggest you do it before anyone else gets up, or before you go to bed, so that everyone else is already asleep. You can dim the lights. At the moment at our house, it's quite dark in the morning anyway, but so that you can really get in touch with your emotions and how you're feeling and any shifts in your body and all that kind of stuff. You can be fully clothed or partially undressed. I actually know people who do it straight after they get out of the shower, so that then they can keep the oils on them all day. So it's totally up to you. But because some of the oil blends that we're going to talk about go over your liver, your stomach, your navel, and the various chakras, which run down the middle of your body, it is quite good if you, like I've taught this at workshops where people have had dresses on, and it's a bit hard for them to get their hand up their dress to touch their liver, if you know what I mean. The reason we drop oils from about 5 to 15 centimeters from the body, and we do this in the raindrop technique as well, is because it goes through your aura. And a lot of emotional issues and even diseases and things like that are believed to stem from outside of the body. So when you actually drop the oils from 5 to 15 centimeters away from the body, they are traveling through your energetic field. So through your aura, which is where your energy starts, outside of the body and onto your hand or wherever it is that you're going to do, drop the oils. Take your time. As I said, you are worth it. This is self-care. Do it for 30 days, like allow yourself 30 days worth of beautiful self-care to get in touch with yourself. And when you're finished, actually allow yourself a few minutes of time to whether you want to journal or meditate or just regain composure before you go on and, get on with your day, I guess. And as it says, repeat every day. Even if you use this feelings kit once in a while, you're still going to get huge benefits, even if you don't do it for the 30 days. But if you've got major emotional baggage to get, to work through, then I'd really suggest doing it every day for 30 days at least.
Alrighty, so we're going to start with the first oil, which is Valor. And if you know anything about essential oils, Young Living essential oils, the founder of Young Living, Gary Young, created this Valor blend. And I think it's safe to say it was his favorite oil, wasn't it? He certainly used it every day. So we use Valor as the first and the last step in this emotional detox process. So Valor is renowned for its ability to promote emotional balance. And I love this oil. I teach as a casual teacher at school, and there's definitely moments where I wake up in the morning thinking I'm not looking forward to what's going to happen today. I definitely use Valor. I use it almost every day when I teach. And it helps give courage, it helps give confidence, it helps give self-esteem. The way that we're going to use the oils, and we're going to use each one in a similar manner, is first of all to put 3 drops on your hand and then to rub it around. So you put it on your left hand, rub your right hand around 3 times in a circular motion clockwise, and that's going to energize the oil. And that's going to give it some energy and also some of your body heat. Then you're going to cup your hands over your nose and take 3 deep breaths. So and just really breathe it deeply into your lungs. Now, we start off with a thing called the Valor balance. And I first experienced this when Kim did it for me. And again, it was one of those kind of hippie woo-woo things. I thought, well, what's going on? Why is Kim holding my feet like this? But I just relaxed into it. And I could really feel a difference. And I felt a strong connection with her. So you can do this for yourself. So if you're sitting down cross-legged on the floor, or I guess on a chair or a beanbag or something, you lean across with your right hand onto your left foot and hold your
Right
sorry,
hand
oh
on.
yeah, no. Let me start that again. Your legs across. So you're actually going to connect with your right hand to your right foot and your left hand to your left foot. And you want as much skin on skin contact as you can get. And you're going to do this for 1 to 2 minutes. And it's hard to exactly explain how this feels or what happens, but it balances the electrical energy in your body. That's sort of the technical way of explaining it. What it does is it really, I find, it gives a great sense of peace and balance and calm. And it's just a way of really slowing down and getting back in touch really with yourself and with your body and with your feelings. So that's where we start, is with Valor. And it's a great reminder of this idea that the mind, the body, and the spirit are all connected. One of the things that's happened through time is that somehow we've managed to disconnect those 3 things and think of them differently. So in some cultures through history, they thought that the body was bad, the spirit or the mind was good. And it's really separated these things out. So right through history, if we look at, say, the Greeks, they would use things like sacrifices and prayers before sending you home to heal yourself. Some of the ancients, they believed that healing was bound up with appeasing the spirit world. So, that's why they gave these offerings. But they also believed very strongly that illnesses were a spiritual thing. So they came from disharmony between humans and the spiritual world. And I think there's some truth in that. So there's now a return to thinking about the mind and the body and the spirit as one. And that's this idea of holistic health and holistic healing. So, and even, doctors, all kinds of health experts are starting to recognize this connection between physical disease and emotional turmoil. So things like stress, I guess, are a great example of the way that negative emotions can have a negative impact on our body. So health isn't just being healthy in our body. I think it's a state of unity between our mind, our body, and our spirit. And so that's what we're really aiming to get to. So to have everything in harmony, which is a nice little segue into the next oil that we're going to use, which is harmony. So we use harmony to give us expressive creativity and feelings of confidence, helps to reduce stress and create an overall sense of well-being. And that idea of being in harmony with yourself really helps you to be in harmony with the people around you as well. So once again, the way to use it is to place 3 drops on your left palm, energize it with your right hand by rubbing it in a circular clockwise motion 3 times, and then just to cup it in front of your nose and take those 3 deep breaths. You can also move that over the energy centers, there's chakras in your body. So you could hold it over each one, or you could even place a drop of harmony on each one as you're going through this. Each of these oils also comes with an affirmation. So the affirmation with this one is, I live each day in harmony with others and the earth. Just quickly, the oils that are part of this blend, there's some beautiful oils: royal Hawaiian sandalwood, lavender, ylang ylang, frankincense, angelica, hyssop, sage, northern lights, black spruce, a whole bunch of them. It's just a beautiful blend.
I should have said that when you registered for this workshop, you actually would have got a booklet emailed out to you, and it's got these steps on how to use the oils in the booklet. So if you don't have to remember everything that we've said tonight or take copious notes, you should have that booklet. If you didn't get it, let me know and I can email you another copy. The thing about why this works is that the feelings kit actually focuses on the 5 stages of healing. So essential oils not only help to heal the physical body, which is, as I said, that's how I came to using them. I love to use deep relief on my neck or on my lower back after driving or sitting at a computer all day. So, you know, I was all over how they work on the physical body, but they also assist the heart in healing. You know, you often see people who are depressed and they have their shoulders hunched over and they're, you know, it's like they're protecting their heart chakra or that energy center. And oils actually work on our emotions and healing our heart and the way that we feel about things. They assist in releasing limiting beliefs, and I definitely talked about that last night when we did the workshop. We did a talk on using highest potential, and I talked about how using highest potential can help overcome your limiting beliefs. So if your limiting beliefs are being, you know, stifled because of issues with your mum or your dad, you put it on your right ear. If they're to do with your ability to accept wisdom, you put it on your thumb. Or if they're to do with habits and things like that, you put it on your big toe. So, you know, there are places that you can use these oils as well. And the other thing is that essential oils increase spiritual awareness and connection. And that's why the church has known this for so long. And yoga, you know, yogis and Buddhist monks, like all different kinds of religions around the world have used incense and fragrance and essential oils to help create that, I guess, to bridge the gap between the spirit world and our world. And the oils like frankincense actually have mild psychotropic properties. So they're actually able to make you I guess, more in touch with the spirits and that spiritual world. And the last thing is that essential oils actually inspire the fulfillment of our own life's purpose. And often I find that, you know, once people often come to Young Living in this order. They come because they have a physical need or an emotional need, and then they start working on themselves and they become better people. They become more in contact, you know, with the spiritual aspect, and they begin to live out their own life's purpose, and they start sharing and helping other people to go through these 5 stages of healing as well. So the next oil is forgiveness, which Jeremy was telling me today I need.
Well, life serves up all kinds of things to us, doesn't it? And I think when it comes to finding healing and wholeness, we really need to start with forgiveness. It's probably the most powerful tool in the toolbox when it comes to emotional healing. One of the things that Kim talked about earlier was the way that when we repress our emotions and we push them down and we don't experience them, they can take on a life of their own inside us, and they can bubble up at different times. And I suppose my experience in this, I've seen the way that hurt, and often people can hurt us, whether that's intentionally or unintentionally in our life. Often when we're young, that can turn into anger as we experience the pain of what's been done to us. But when we don't deal with that, then that anger can get pushed down and often become bitterness and resentment. And those two things are just poisonous, I think, inside of us. Bitterness and resentment can cause physical ailments. For example, just thinking about the mind body spiritual connection. I've known a couple of people who've had terrible arthritis, and I'm not saying that all arthritis is caused by bitterness, but I've certainly seen examples where I think that has been the case, and where people have had that unforgiveness and that bitterness and resentment inside them. So we can use forgiveness to set other people free. And that's a great thing. If we're holding something against someone else and they know that, then to be able to forgive them is to set them free. But much more, I think, forgiveness sets us free. Because what happens if someone's hurt you in the past? Maybe it's a family member or someone in your childhood, and that person's actually died. So there's no chance to reconcile with them. There's no chance to talk to them. So forgiveness is something that we can really do for ourselves. So, and to set ourselves free. So we use forgiveness to forgive our own mistakes, and that's really important too. Often we condemn ourselves even more than we condemn other people. And we use forgiveness so that we can move forward in our life, so that we can cancel the debt or get rid of the pain and move forward. So forgiveness, the blend, has the essential oils of melissa, geranium, frankincense, royal Hawaiian sandalwood. Again, these beautiful spiritual oils, bergamot, ylang ylang, helichrysum, and rose, which is just a beautiful high frequency oil. So once again, we're going to place 3 drops on our left palm, energize it with your right palm in a clockwise circular direction. And then again, cup your hands in front of you and take those 3 deep breaths and breathe it deep into your lungs. You can also use forgiveness around your navel. So after breathing it in, just to rub it around clockwise around your navel with your right hand. And just think specifically of those situations where you need to either forgive other people and set them free, or forgive yourself and set yourself free. And as you're doing that, you can just say the affirmation, I forgive all those who have done wrong by me.
All right, I talked earlier about the importance of releasing emotions, and that's why we're doing this, emotional detox. One of the things that I read a book when I was pregnant with Caitlin, my eldest, who's now 12, and some of you already know that I had a home birth and I was preparing for a home birth. And I wanted to make sure that this birth was going to be the best thing that ever happened. And that I had done everything in my power to release anything that was, stored up in me. And this particular book talked about how we actually pass emotions and emotional patterns on through the generations. And it can actually go back as far as 7 generations because it gets stored in our DNA. And when we pass it on, though that DNA gets passed on. And so, you can often hear this spoken about in Aboriginal communities. They will talk about the impact of the stolen generation and the trauma and things like that they've experienced being passed on through the generations to children that haven't even been born yet. And so it's really important to do some kind of emotional cleansing before you actually, fall pregnant or have a baby. And so I actually did some emotional release work even before I got into the oils. I did that before I had Caitlin because I wanted to make sure that emotional those bad emotional patterns that I had developed through my own childhood trauma that I talked about earlier weren't going to be passed on to future generations. And they can actually stem from your time in the womb. And I've done a lot of work with women who've experienced domestic violence. It's one of my passions because I too had a violent relationship when I was younger. And a lot of the women that I would see actually were, some of the abuse started when they were pregnant, and they were really concerned that the abuse that they had experienced was already impacting, even if it's just the stress of the mother, and her stress levels and cortisol and adrenaline and all those things that are floating around in her bloodstream are actually impacting on the baby, from the time that they're conceived right through to the time that they're born. So it's really super important, if you know people who are dealing with a lot of emotional trauma, that they do something about this, not just for them but for future generations. So that brings us to the next oil, which is release. And I love release. I could wear release as a perfume every day.
So release is again a beautiful. All these blends are fantastic. So release contains ylang ylang, lavandin, geranium, royal Hawaiian sandalwood. There it is again. Grapefruit, tangerine, spearmint, lemon, blue cypress, davana, lime. So it's got a whole bunch of the citrus oils, ocotea, jasmine. So it smells beautiful, doesn't it? And it's got rose and blue tans in there as well. So release is really used to release those feelings associated with trauma and associated with anger. And so to release them, but also to bring in that sense of peace and that sense of emotional well-being. So again, using it in the same way, 3 drops on your left palm, energizing it, and then breathing it in. Um, and then you can use release over the front and back of the liver area on your body, which again, as Kim said, we store these anger and resentment and feelings in different parts of our body. So to be able to rub that over your liver area and say the affirmation, I lovingly release all feelings of hurt and anger that I've stored in my body. Now, one quick thing about this, it would be fantastic if you could do this once and magically in an instant all that was gone. But some of these emotions are pretty well ingrained, yeah, in us. So that's, I guess, one of the other benefits about doing this often, and particularly that idea of 30 days, because things come up slowly. I use the example of, it's like down in the Western region in Melbourne, farmers would clear their fields and you see all these stone walls around their fields. But what I didn't know was that the stones keep coming up. So they'll clear the field once, and then a couple of years later, more rocks have actually made their way up through the soil. So they pull those out, put them on the fence. And I think it's like that with our emotions. So we'll deal with stuff when we can cope, and then more things tend to come up. So to be able to use this over and over is a great thing.
I love this quote from Gary Young because it really talks about that idea of releasing emotions. So he says that negative experience and ideas are actually recorded in our brains and locked into our memories throughout our lives. These memories range from mild to extreme and actually have a profound effect on our health and our happiness. In order to become who we are intended to be, our higher self, if you like, we must erase these negatives and reprogram our thoughts to make positive ideas our reality. So, it's super important that we release those emotions, and so that we can put more positive ideas into our lives.
I love the concept of present time. So it's funny, when we experience hurt, often we live our life in the past. So how could that have happened to us? How could someone have done that to us? We go backwards in time. Often I think when we're in fear and we're anxious, we worry about the future. And yet living in the present is such a powerful thing. And it's a place where we can enjoy life and we can really be, as it says, in the moment. So I think that does come with emotional release. So present time, again, just an amazing blend. It contains the oils of neroli, so it smells a little bit like
4711.
4711. It's got Northern Lights black spruce and ylang ylang. And once again, use it in the same way, 3 drops to breathe it in, and then place a drop over your thymus. So your thymus is just under your sternum or breastbone. So it's actually close to your heart as well. And then to be able to say the affirmation, I choose to be present and enjoy living in the moment. inner child is, well, one of the things, I guess, and I'll just quickly share my story. When I was a little kid, I uh, I struggled to feel loved by my parents, and when I look back on my life, that's been a continual theme. That little child, that little boy, has always struggled to feel loved, and I think all of us have an inner child within us who often has carried trauma. And when we can go back to that little child and actually bring some healing and some wholeness and some harmony to them, that can make such a difference. So the blend inner child is really to help stimulate a memory response and reconnect with our inner self and our own identity. And often that little child's had some really difficult times. So for us to be able to go back, connect with that inner child, and just let them know that they were loved and they're cared for, and to find some healing is so important. Inner Child's an oil blend that contains orange, tangerine, ylang ylang, royal Hawaiian sandalwood, jasmine, lemongrass, northern lights, black spruce, and neroli. It smells fantastic. But more than that, I think it helps us to bring some healing to that little boy or that little girl inside us. So again, 3 drops on our hands, energize it, breathe it in, and then place a drop on your finger and rub it under your nose or around your navel or both, and say the affirmation, anything is possible. And isn't that all about being a little child? So our last oil, and this brings us around again, is Valor. So we're going to reapply Valor essential oil to complete the feelings regimen. And Valor locks in these feelings of completeness and balance and harmony and healing. So as Kim said, the feelings regimen, you can do it 30 days in a row if you can, and that would be awesome. And just to let those feelings come up and to be able to deal with them and process them. But this is something that you can repeat when you need it and when you desire it. So allow yourself time and space to really get the most out of this.
All right, so after applying all the oils, just remember that essential oils, we often talk about essential oils, you know, detoxing toxins and things like that. They don't only release toxins in terms of chemical toxins, but they actually release emotional toxins. So after you do the feelings kit regime, or even whenever you're using any large amount of oil, so whether it's raindrop or whether you're putting oils on your skincare, however you're using oils, it's really important that you drink lots of water, because we don't want to just release these emotional toxins, say from our liver or our lungs, if it's grief, or our kidneys or whatever, and then they're just floating around in our body. We actually want to flush these things out. So I like to drink a lot of water so that I'm helping to flush those out. You can also, as I've mentioned before, do some meditation or journal about how you're feeling. And journaling is a good way to actually document the process and how you felt about doing this. If you do it for the 30 days, it is an amazing process to read back on your journal and look at exactly how you felt and the changes that you made, because often people get to the end of something and they don't remember what life was like beforehand. I mean, we're going through a coaching program at the moment, and we often talk about how do we feel the coaching program's going, and the best way to measure anything is to actually journal about it and write it down, so that then you've got a record of how you were feeling. So what will you notice? Now, the thing about this is that different people notice different things. And, you know, for some people, it's a really slow, gentle shift in their energy, and they're releasing emotions. For some people, their emotions are so buried deep that it's going to take more than 30 days. And for others, they start to notice that they feel lighter straight away. Like from the first time of using the feelings kit, they have an emotional release and they feel lighter. They might have an outpouring of emotion. You can actually do this on other people as well. So there are practitioners out there who offer emotional detox or feelings kit sessions where they have you lay on a table and they will administer the oil. So they'll hold them over your chakras. They'll do the energy, Valor balance, that kind of stuff. So you can do this with children. If you have some children who have some deep emotional issues, you can actually apply the oils for them and get them to breathe them in from your hands and things like that. And if you have a partner who is reluctant to this stuff, wash his clothes in it, or put the diffuser on with the oils of harmony or forgiveness or whatever it is, because that way he's still going to be breathing them in, even if he doesn't know that that's the effect that it's having on him. So just a little tip there. This is a great book if you want to know more about releasing emotional patterns with essential oils. It's a book by a lady called Carolyn Mine. You can go on to Amazon and Google it. It retails for, I think, $25 US. And it actually talks more in more depth. It gives you more affirmations. It gives you more points to put it on. So like today we've talked about, the top of the ear, some of the chakra points, your liver, but she gives you a whole heap of different emotional release points in the body, and on the bottoms of the feet and on the head and on the face and all of that kind of stuff, where you should use the oils. Different emotions. I mean, we've talked a lot today about forgiveness and anger and things like that, but she goes into a whole heap of different emotions, the affirmation and the point and the oil to use. So if you are serious about learning how to release emotional patterns with essential oils, then this is a great book to get. If you're not already a member with Young Living and you'd like to get your own feelings kit, then get back in contact with the person who invited you to today's workshop, and they'll actually help you to get started. So you can order this kit for retail for $393.10, which if you're going to use it for 30 days, that works out about, I'm hopeless at maths.
$3.30.
$3.30 a day. So that's a cup of coffee. I think that you're worth a cup of coffee a day, personally. But who'd pay the retail price when you can actually get it for the wholesale price, which saves you 24% off? So for $100 less, you're going to get it at the wholesale price. There's no catches with it. You just go onto the website, place a customized enrollment order. That is your initial order that gets you started with Young Living, and you automatically get a free wholesale account, which would normally cost you $59. So instead of that, you're just getting the feelings kit. There's no ongoing fees to pay, no annual fees, and you keep your membership so long as you do one annual purchase. If you do one emotional detox per year and stock up on your kit, you're going to keep your membership. But I mean, there's so many other products as well that you can actually try out. If you get started with our team as a result of coming to this workshop, make sure you let the person know how you found out about the workshop, because we've got some free gifts for you. We actually have a copy of a book that I wrote. So in addition to the free wholesale account that you're going to get with Young Living, which, as I said, saves you the $59 off that you would normally pay, gets you 24% off. But in addition to that, you get access to an amazing emotional detox Facebook group that we have. This is a Facebook group that you can join, and it basically provides you with support and resources. There's more videos. You can watch this video again. There's, hard copies of the book that you work through. All of that kind of stuff are in that Facebook group, and it's a place for you to ask questions about what you're experiencing or what you're going through. It's it's a support group, if you like. You'll get 3 books to help you not only ditch and switch the emotional toxins from your life, but also the nasty chemicals as well. And they're the books that are pictured. And you'll get to join a community of people who are here to support and encourage you on your journey. And you just can't put a price on that. And the other thing that we talked about is that if you are interested in getting started with us, we will actually gift you a copy of that Carolyn Mine book. I'll just go back and show you this book, which, as I said, retails for $25 US. So if you get started with our team in the next 24 hours, and mention that you did this emotional detox workshop, then we will gift you this book as well, because I think it's super important if you're going to use essential oils for emotional detox, that you've got something to help you do it. So that's it. We thank you so much for giving up your time tonight to be with us, Jeremy and I and all of you. You may feel that fear may be difficult to overcome and inhibit your ability to do this, but love will actually restore you. And that's a quote from Carolyn Mine from her beautiful book dealing with using essential oils to release emotions. So thank you. We might just open it up for questions that anyone has. But once again, thank you. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure spending some time with you. And that quote is so important. Don't let fear stop you confronting these things and finding healing. That freedom is an awesome thing.